And just 27 days left until the country reaches that so-called fiscal cliff. But tonight, lawmakers are no closer to getting a deal done.
Yeah, and some observers are wondering if negotiations are taking place at all. Senior political reporter Scott Thuman joins us live from the newsroom. Scott, another day without any apparent movement from either side, is that right?
Well, Gordon, Allison, you start to wonder how long these two sides are going to go on before one gives in or they have more face-to-face meetings, because as of now, it appears, at least publicly, that they talk more to us than to each other. And that's one reason the public is on edge and speaking out.
Hoping to rouse the spirits and, more importantly, cooperation of Congress, religious leaders from around the country came to Capitol Hill and held vigil.
We find ourselves approaching the cliff.
And approaching quickly. And now a new wrinkle. The president today, while holding a business roundtable with CEOs, said he was aware Republicans may give in on higher tax rates for the wealthy, then make negotiations for him very difficult when it's time to raise the debt ceiling next year.
That is a bad strategy for America. It's a bad strategy for your businesses, and it is not a game that I will play.
A message he said worth repeating.
We are not going to play that game next year.
The fear legitimate based on the same nasty fight last year.
We were downgraded for the first time in my career, and I think in history. The creditworthiness of America ought not to be put at risk.
So where are the negotiations now? One GOP aide told CNN there are none. No messages from the White House, not even any emails or backdoor communications.
Now we need a response from the White House. We can't sit here and negotiate with ourselves.
Speaker Boehner went on to argue that the White House should be more open to the GOP plan of making money by ending tax write-offs and closing loopholes, because he says that money would typically come from the rich. By the way, December 14th is when the House was scheduled to recess for the year. Eric Cantor today on the House floor said they will not adjourn until they come up with a solution. Gordon.
All right, Scott Thuman reporting. We are still weeks away from the fiscal cliff, but the indecision about this has people worried. Fears of how it could impact the holiday shopping season. Some agencies planning for the worst. You can read all about it on our website. Just head over to WJLA.com, click on the Fiscal Cliff link at the top of the page. Maryland's two U.S. senators, both Democrats, are weighing in on the federal government's response to Superstorm Sandy. Senators Barbara Mikulski and Ben Cardin were on Capitol Hill today. They appeared before a Senate subcommittee. Mikulski called for aid to communities on the Eastern Shore, communities still suffering after Sandy. Cardin spoke of the need to invest for protection against future storms. They testified along with the FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate, who talked about the immense challenge of rebuilding after Sandy.
There are going to be significant challenges with housing. As was pointed out, FEMA's assistance in housing is limited. The maximum benefits an individual family could receive is about $31,000 if they have no insurance. Obviously, that's not going to rebuild destroyed or damaged homes.
Also new today, the National Hurricane Center is being given more flexibility in issuing hurricane warnings. Federal forecasters caught some heat for failing to issue warnings for Sandy because technically it wasn't a hurricane when it made landfall.
Well, the person New York police say pushed a man to his death on a train track is behind bars tonight. This video shows police arresting 30-year-old Naeem Davis. Police say Davis shoved 58-year-old Kisuk Khan in front of a subway train near Times Square. Davis is homeless, and police suspect he has mental health problems. Army Private Bradley Manning had a history of depression that increased his suicide risk inside Quantico. This is according to a testimony given today by a former Marine Corps brig supervisor. Manning is accused of sending classified documents to WikiLeaks. Lawyers for the Army Private say his 9 months in confinement, sometimes with no clothes, warrants dismissal of his case. The government says it was done to keep the 24-year-old from hurting himself or others.
The attempted robbery of a Fredericksburg ATM did not go as planned despite the use of an explosive device. Police say a bank employee was the first to spot the damage to the drive-through ATM at around 9 this morning, and police say surveillance video shows someone attaching and detonating a device a few hours earlier. However, they didn't get through the machine, and it actually continued to operate. A Bob-sniffing dog indicated a possible second device, but nothing was found.
Well, you probably already know this, but parking in the district can really be a headache. And it's not just about the lack of spaces. The signs can also be pretty confusing, but that could change soon. D.C. Bureau Chief Sam Ford joins us now from Northwest. And Sam, this was on the minds of many at last night's parking summit, right?
Indeed, it was. DDOT says it's aware of the problem, and it has got a new manager of parking who came aboard last spring, and parking confusion is at the top of his list. An attempt to park on some D.C. streets can be an exercise in confusion. Arrows this way and that, sometimes 5 signs on one pole.
I think for most of them, you need to have your lawyer present to really understand.
Signs were among the issues at last night's parking meeting between residents and DDOT's new manager of parking. Do you ever scratch your head when you're about to park? Start looking?
Yes. I'm looking you right in the eye and saying yes.
Angelo Rao says he's launching a program to get the signs under control, but it's a job.
Someone said there's actually 1 million signs of one shape or another in D.C.
One of our favorite is at Connecticut near R. It says police parking only, and yet it has active parking meters. Some motorists don't know what to do. Paul Meehan does.
I park here every day. I don't really pay attention to it. I just put money in the meter and they never ticket me.
One motorist looked at the sign confusion and said it ought to be enforced.
They should tow this car away. They should crush it in a compactor and then bring it back about the size of a shoebox with a ticket on it.
Back to DDOT and Angelo Rao. One new approach he's trying is this: put 4 messages on one sign. How long does it take to read that sign, you think?
Probably at least 30 seconds to maybe a minute.
Progress. Angelo Rao says that the number of people in the city doubles every business day, and that the city needs to send out a lot of messages just to control the streets. He said that his job is to make sure that those messages are easy to understand and also to make sure that they do not conflict. And right now, his job is not finished. Reporting live from Northwest Washington, Sam Ford, ABC 7 News.
All right, Sam, and as he mentioned, there were a lot of ideas that were tossed around at last night's parking summit. If you want to learn more about what was discussed there, just head to WJLA.com. Gordon?
Allison, if you get caught texting while driving in Virginia, you could soon face a reckless driving charge. The State Crime Commission met today to back the plan. Currently, texting and driving in the Commonwealth is considered a secondary offense, which means police cannot ticket violators unless they pull them over for another reason. Now it's up to state lawmakers to increase the penalty.
A father and the daughter he never knew existed are supposed to be reunited soon. But coming up, we're going to tell you how the girl was adopted without his consent and why their reunion could be delayed.
Also ahead, why these folks staged a live nativity scene on the steps of the Supreme Court.
And we'll tell you why Starbucks is now charging hundreds of dollars for a particular gift card.
And I'm Doug Hill in the Belford Furniture Weather Center. Remember when we had temperatures in the 70s like yesterday and Monday? Well, not anymore. I'll tell you what